My dear siblings in Christ, as I speak to you today, several cases of COVID-19 have been reported in our area, and one now in Philadelphia itself. As Christians, we are called to care for each other, especially those among us who are weak and vulnerable. To that end, we are instituting some guidelines for how we are in community with each other at this particular point in time. These guidelines are not the result of fear or panic, but rather intended to help us do our part as responsible citizens to decrease the likelihood of viral exposure and transmission, thereby lessening human illness and suffering. In other words, this is all part of loving our neighbors as ourselves. We will continue to hold church as usual, though we will no longer pass the cup. The wine will still be consecrated and poured into a cup, but rather than either dipping or taking a sip from the cup, the chalice bearer will come and stand in front of you and say the words, "The blood of Christ, the cup of salvation," and then move on. We will also no longer be sharing the peace, shaking hands at the passing of the peace. However, if you fall into one of the high-risk categories, specifically if you have an underlying health condition or a compromised immune system, or if you are over 60, please stay at home. Worshiping together is important to each of us, but so is your health and your well-being, to this community and to God. So we will be live streaming the 11 o'clock service on Facebook in an effort to still feel connected. Please tune in and join us. Also, sermons are available online for you to listen to or read, usually by the Wednesday after they are preached. In addition to these worship guidelines, I am asking all groups to suspend meetings for now, either postponing them to a later date or meeting via email or Zoom. Staff are working to set up a Zoom account that that those of you who need to hold meetings can access. Staff are also being encouraged to work from home as much as possible, and for those things that must be done at 313 Pine Street or in the church building itself, we are working to limit the number of people in the office at one time. These measures have not been undertaken lightly, and we as a staff will be evaluating them regularly and making changes as necessary. And the truth is that the vast majority of people at St. Peter's will either not get the virus at all, or if contracting it, will only be mildly ill. The problem lies in the risk of a healthy person spreading the virus to someone who is not. And that concern, that love for neighbor, is what is motivating these changes. As a congregation made up mostly of people who have health insurance, who have jobs that allow for flexibility or paid sick leave, I encourage you to do all in your power to minimize your impact on the weakest and most vulnerable among us, and to refrain from things like hoarding food and sanitizer. None of us should be comfortable at the expense of others. I also ask that you do any shopping that you need to do now rather than relying on delivery services if and when things get worse. Delivery services require workers who do not have the luxury of staying home to be out and exposed to the virus. Know that Sarah and I are available to you and that we are holding this community, each of you, and the entire world in our prayers. Please feel free to contact me with any concerns or questions you might have. I wish you peace and blessings.